You ever walk into a place thinking you're just going to do something simple by a car, maybe, or just get through your day and end up leaving with a story you'll be telling for the rest of your life? That's pretty much what happened to Rebecca Kennedy. And let me tell you, her day at Premier Elite Motors was one for the books. It was one of those mornings where the city felt alive, the air humming with that electric energy only Washington, D.C. can serve up, half anticipation, half dread, all power. Rebecca, 45 and sharp as ever, walked into Premier Elite Motors not because she wanted to show off, but because she needed a serious car, the kind that could take a pounding on the road between charity events, veterans' homes, all that work she does that never seems to make the headlines, but sure changes lives. She wore that navy blazer-like armor and her eagle pendant, a small nod to what she stands for, just below her throat, a target, maybe for the kind of people who live to take shots at anyone who dares to be different. The place was as fancy as you'd expect: Bentleys, Ferraris, and that Paragon V12. The car she'd had her eye on, its black paint catching the light like it knew it was special. She walked right up to it, cool and calm, and let the world take notice. The first guy to greet her was Ethan, this nervous kid who looked like he'd just barely figured out how to tie his tie, but you could tell he meant well. He started rattling off features: horsepower, leather seats, the kind of talk you expect in a showroom like that. But just as Rebecca was starting to think this might go easy, here comes Michael Carter, manager. The man in charge. The one who didn't bother hiding the disdain in his eyes when he caught sight of her pendant. Now, Rebecca's been around D.C. long enough to spot trouble before it lands. Michael's the kind who thinks he can size up a person in 2 seconds, slap a label on them, and that's the end of it. "You're Senator Kennedy's wife, aren't you?" he sneered, as if saying her name left a bad taste in his mouth. "Come to buy a car or campaign for your husband?" The words hit hard, but Rebecca didn't flinch. She stood in bigger storms than this. Michael, though, he kept pushing, loud enough for the whole showroom to hear. He questioned why someone like her would even set foot in his progressive dealership. "We cater to a different kind of clientele," he said, like she tracked mud onto his marble floor. People stared. Some whispered. A couple even chuckled. But Rebecca stood her ground, calm as you please, and told him, "I'm here for the car. That's all that should matter." But Michael wanted a scene. He mocked her for her beliefs, for her husband's politics, all of it, until the air in that fancy showroom was thick with judgment and something close to cruelty. Finally, he told her to leave her, he'd call security. Imagine that. Tossing out a senator's wife, not for anything she did, but for who she was and what she believed. Rebecca could have lost it right then. Instead, she just said, "This isn't over," and walked out with her head high, past the whispers, the stares, and the smug satisfaction on Michael's face. She got into her old Honda, let the tears sting her eyes for a split second, then dialed her husband. Now, if you've never met Senator John Kennedy, you should know his old school. Southern charm, backbone of steel, the kind of man who's made more enemies than friends in D.C., and he doesn't lose sleep over it. When Rebecca told him what happened, you could hear the anger simmering on the line. "He did what?" John said, his voice low and dangerous. "Don't worry, honey. I'll take care of it." The next morning, Premier Elite Motors got a wake-up call they never saw coming. Sunlight glinted off a $1.7 million Rolls-Royce Phantom as it pulled up to the entrance. Phones came out. People whispered, and out stepped John Kennedy, all silver hair and calm fury, ready to teach a lesson that would echo far beyond the marble showroom. Inside, Michael Carter was basking in the afterglow of his so-called victory from the day before, until John's presence cut through the air like a storm. "I'm John Kennedy, senator from Louisiana. And you, Mr. Carter, you insulted my wife. You kicked her out because of her politics. That ends today." You could feel the mood shift. The crowd grew, the whispers louder. Even the owner, Elizabeth Harper, hurried out from her office, her face tight with worry as John laid out exactly what had happened. Elizabeth apologized deeply, but Michael tried to justify himself, said the dealership had values. John wasn't having any of it. "You judge my wife because she believes in something. You thought you could put her in her place. Well, you're going to make this right." And he meant it. John didn't just demand the car for Rebecca, insisted that Michael volunteer at her upcoming veteran charity gala to see up close the lives he'd dismissed so easily. The paperwork got signed, the Paragon V12 ordered for delivery, and John left as quietly as he'd come, but the impact lingered like a thunderclap. A month later, at the gala, the whole thing came full circle. The Ritz ballroom sparkled, flags draped along the walls, and veterans from all over filled the room with laughter and stories, not politics. Rebecca stood at the podium, that eagle pendant catching the light, her voice ringing out for everyone who'd ever been told they didn't belong. In the back, Michael Carter looked a shadow of the man he'd Bieno-tailored suit, just a volunteer badge and an uneasy smile as he pushed Sarah, a young veteran, to the dessert table. Sarah, with her quick wit and missing left arm, gave Michael more grief in 10 minutes than he'd had in his life, but you could tell something was changing in him. Rebecca found him, thanked him for helping, and asked if this was what he expected. Not at all, Michael admitted. I thought it would just be politics, but it's real. These people, they're more than I imagined. Sarah chimed in, giving him a nudge, and even Michael had to smile. John Kennedy appeared then, not as the senator, but as the man behind Rebecca. You showed up, son. That's a start. You keep showing up, maybe you'll learn what really matters. And that's the twist, isn't it? In the end, it's not about who wins or loses a shouting match. It's about what you do when you see the other side as human, not just as politics. Michael apologized, really apologized for what he'd done, and for a moment, you believed him. Rebecca's Paragon V12 arrived on time, gleaming and perfect, but it wasn't the car that mattered. It was a lesson respect goes deeper than politics, and worth is measured in action, not opinion. As the night wound down, laughter and music spilled out into the DC night, and you could feel for once that maybe the walls weren't as high as we thought. Maybe bridges can be built even in places like DC, even in places like Premier Elite Motors. Now, I'm curious, what would you have done in Rebecca's place or John's? Do you think Michael deserved a second chance? Or was that too easy? Let's get the conversation started. Where do you draw the line between standing up for what's right and giving someone the space to change? I'd love to hear your thoughts below.